Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Polygon Live. We are here at E3 2014. I am joined by our esteemed editor-in-chief, Chris Grant, and the very special guests, Nathan and Chris of Cappy Games. Hello.
Hello. I'm waving at the camera and you're waving at them.
You can wave wherever you'd like, totally up to you.
Hello.
They've brought with them quite a special game that you may have heard of called Below. Features a little gentleman. Maybe it's a gentleman. Is it a gentleman?
Oh, it changes every time you die.
Oh, okay.
It's the Wanderer. That's what we call
Sure.
him. You know, at the studio. The character has no actual name, but it is sometimes a gentleman.
Okay.
Sometimes not.
And sometimes you don't really know.
Yeah.
This is my first time seeing the game firsthand. Obviously, I've seen videos of it and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to describe it, and you are going to correct me when I get things wrong. The impression I get is that it is an exploration-heavy RPG, sort of inspired by the likes of maybe a Zelda and a Dark Souls and like that thing, but obviously with a very unique art style and really atmospheric music and audio and things like that. You got some fog there. You have a sword. Was all that accurate?
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, that's pretty much. It's very, very, very light on the RPG.
Sure.
There's not like a leveling systems
Sure.
or anything like that. But you
Closer to Zelda.
Yeah, you do have an inventory. You
Yeah.
do get to choose what's in your inventory. And the exploration is kind of the big part of it, right? The game is really about us setting you down in this world as this kind of lone, mysterious wanderer and letting you explore. You're exploring the world, you're exploring the controls, you're exploring the combat, you're exploring, you don't even really know why you're there, and
Sure.
the game is completely without kind of text or hints or explanations or tutorials or direction of any sort. It's really about you exploring, and then it's also about you, if you can manage to, surviving also, because it is rather challenging.
Hard, yes.
And because you are not given any straightforward hints, you're not given any kind of like hand-holding, you learn what is dangerous and how to deal with danger by exploring.
Sure. So, sorry, Chris. You said that there's no text or anything like that. Have you guys created a story that you're just like not gonna tell people?
Yeah.
There's like a whole world and universe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've been working on the worlds,
lore,
world
stuff
design
like
and the lore, the history of the world. The reason why you're actually arriving on the island, what's drawing you to the island. That's really what the game is all about. So there is actually a bunch of little storylines that are in the game for you to discover, but it's really up to you to kind of find the little scenes that we've sort of hidden throughout. That's kind of what the game is about. Yeah.
Can you? I think the most obvious visual element of the game is the scale. The camera is very far away. The character looks like very well detailed and like a lot of detailed animation. You can see it in the shadows there, but it's like really small on the screen, unusually small.
Yeah, I mean, even from like the very first time that Chris pitched the game to us, he pitched it as a game where you play this tiny, weak, kind of feeble character, and the sense of scale is in the game, really to drive that home. But it's also it also kind of gives us an opportunity to ensure that people can understand visually what they're exploring.
Sure.
To know that they are this tiny character in this big world, and because a big portion of the levels, which are also procedurally generated, are single screen, it means that you kind of have a sense of your surroundings and your boundaries, even though those might be clouded, or covered in fog of war if you're going to game speak it up. And that sense of scale was something that was imperative for us to figure out, like, can we do this? Is this something that we can make readable, understandable, interesting, and beautiful all at the same time, while kind of doing it in a way that, you always understand what's going on. You always know what direction you're facing, what weapon you're using, if you're using your shield, and also kind of where the enemies are. Are they dangerous? How are they dangerous? And that was a huge amount of work for the studio to kind of get it to this point. But the biggest part of it is the fact that, like, because you are always one mistake away from death, because you are really kind of tiny and weak, and you are small on the screen, but you're also small in the world, in the depths of this kind of like dungeon, so to speak.
Chris, I saw your GDC talk, I want to say 2 years ago maybe, when you were sort of recounting the early days of Cappy. And you talked a bit about a fantasy game that you guys had wanted to make, much earlier on. Is there any relation here? Is this a project you guys have been trying to put together for a long time?
It's not directly related. A motorcycle just drove by. But the game you're talking about is called Rising Tide, and it's definitely there is no direct correlation between that game and this game. But there are some things. I mean, aesthetically, like there are some similarities. But yeah, they're two completely different games. I think that was the beginning of us kind of dipping our foot into this genre, and trying to create. It had a similar kind of perspective, but mechanically and as far as the design goes, like they're two completely separate games. Rising Tide was actually the game that sort of led to Clash of Heroes, but yeah, they're not really related, but
Sure.
it was kind of us making our first step in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the slide you showed definitely was evocative of the look of this.
Yeah, I mean, they're both from the overhead perspective and that kind of like Final Fantasy Force perspective with the back wall, which is a perspective that I'm personally a big fan of.
This also kind of has like a tilt shift vibe to it. That's the impression I get.
Yeah,
we're actually doing tilt shift the correct way rather than doing the Instagram style tilt shift. It's actually kind of running through the camera in the correct way. There actually is a plane of focus, and that's
cool.
One of the parts of the game that we worked really hard on, and it comes back to the kind of scale of the Wanderer as well, is that you really need to be able to have that focus on the character. You really need to be able to see where the character is and understand kind of where you are in the screen. And part of the way that we've figured out that works really well, while also making it look pretty rad, is by blurring anything that's not kind of on your plane. And so that was a very interesting kind of discovery for us, and something that, again, like one of the most interesting things about this game, I'm doing a really good job of talking and playing.
I was really impressed that trap.
Yeah, I can take over from here if you want to devote a little bit more.
I'm so proud of myself. This is fantastic. One of the things that we kind of set out to do was, when Chris pitched the title to us, and most of us kind of immediately were really interested in it, but kind of had to explore it for ourselves, was Chris thought, like, what if we tried to do single screen dungeons? What if we tried to do a very zoomed out camera? And tilt shift was one of the really early kind of suggestions that Chris had to miniaturize the world, to kind of make it look a little bit more realistic in a weird way, even though it's hyper stylized. And for us, like, aesthetics and audio design, including music, are core part of why we love to do what we do. What we're really trying to kind of put at the forefront of our games, whether it's working with Super Brothers on Sorcery, or the like crazy weird pixel style of Super Time Force, or in this case, trying to do what we're doing with Below. It's almost like the aesthetics define the atmosphere, and then the atmosphere in a lot of ways defines this game.
Sure.
Can you tell me a little bit about the idea of like the procedural generation that you mentioned?
For sure. That's kind of part of it, is us pulling some of the like core tenets that inspired us from roguelikes, and making sure that each life, which is not the same life over and over again in the game. Every time you die, you come back as the next wanderer arriving to the island. And every time you come back, you're still exploring the same spaces, or the same kind of like depths, but the depths themselves will change every time. And that's part of it, is about kind of providing a replayable experience that is extremely different, and you're always basically to like reinforce the sense of exploration. It's not, you can't memorize anything.
Sure.
You can't play the same thing the same way, because it is never the same.
Sure.
That also seems, especially for a game that's difficult, like it breaks some of the I don't know, like cheats, guides, models that a lot of players have become accustomed to with the web.
Yeah.
And we definitely do think that there's, like, our hope is that there is a community that can kind of start piecing this all together and provide some kind of interesting directions, and figure out if you follow this breadcrumb, it leads to there, because there are certain parts of the game that are totally not procedurally generated.
Sure.
They're these kind of
This is a set piece. That
exactly.
This is not something.
For sure, and you can always get to this place by following the same type of navigation, by entering or exiting in the same way.
Sure.
But the random generation, which we took a heck of a lot of time to try to sort out and make sure that it felt organic and it wasn't just this kind of like blocky pieced together by a machine type thing. But the end result is that like even though you're playing a chronological thing and everything that you do affects the next live, so you open a door and then die, when you come back that door is already open.
Sure.
But it also means that you have this kind of like, you don't have a pure sense of exactly where you are at any given time because it's always slightly changing. It's always slightly different. And maybe that has a bigger kind of reason.
Sure.
But we'll just
I was about to ask you about whether that's explained within the lore. Presumably you have a reason for doing these things.
Yeah.
As well, just relating to that, obviously, roguelikes and procedurally generated seems to be sort of a go-to for a lot of indie devs, strictly from a content creation standpoint. Obviously, not having to hand code every inch of the game and rather building tools that sort of build the game out for you increases, speeds up the process. Was that part of the decision, or
bled out?
Yeah, I don't. From our perspective, I don't think it was any easier to make really good procedurally generated levels that felt organic and natural and provided the type of gameplay that we wanted. That was definitely a real challenge.
I just want to say, and also a big part of the game is that the game is a combination of procedural elements, procedural levels, and sort of persistent pre-made levels. So one of the big ideas is that that the sort of narrative, the way you kind of discover different parts of the world, the way you sort of learn about the place that you're exploring is by finding and discovering new areas that are connected to the procedurally generated levels.
Okay.
It's almost the way I kind of describe it always is that the procedurally generated levels are almost like the water in a river.
Sure.
But within that river, there are these these rocks that are always in the same spot, and you're always going to kind of find them in a different way. But if you do know how to navigate it, and you know kind of what clues you're following, whether visual clues or audio clues or other things, you can always kind of get to the spot that you're looking for. It takes a little bit of time to sort of clue into that kind of stuff, but that is part of the main idea behind the game is that you make your way through these random levels, and then while you're doing that, you're sort of tuning into what the game is trying to tell you and where it's trying to lead you.
So I noticed you just died there. I was going to ask, since you were playing for a good 10 minutes without dying, which I'm guessing isn't usual for a new player, you started back at a campfire, sort of like a Dark Soulsy bonfire type system. How does that work? How does the progression work, and how are you gating that?
Well, right now that's set up that way for demo purposes. So the bonfires aren't actually working as checkpoint systems the way they do in Dark Souls. The fires are sort of used for a variety of survival kind of mechanics. Like one of the things that you can do is cauterize a wound at a bonfire, which is one of the kind of main things that you're kind of always dealing with. You basically have one hit point in the game, and once you get hit, you start to bleed out. And there's a variety of different ways of surviving that. Like Nathan's about to die right now, unless he.
I gotta find something. I'm hoping to find a fire pit right now, but I don't think it's gonna happen fast enough.
Well, check your inventory. You might have.
I don't have anything.
Oh,
you sure?
There you go.
I just managed.
Oh, you have little faith.
I just managed to Rambo myself.
That was impressive.
Just in time. That actually was really impressive. I really
yes. And actually, you're in a good spot.
That's actually why I was hoping that I didn't die. Oh shit! Oh my goodness! I swore on the screen.
That's okay.
I was really worried that.
Back up from that guy. Oh geez, you should just run away from here, and.
I don't know what I can actually do.
Just get out of here. Or fight for your life, man. Just play good. There you go. Stop sucking.
I love how all of us just stopped talking.
That's a guillotine trap. Remember it.
I remember it.
Okay.
I want to try to see if I can get this guy.
We're all suddenly pretty tense. You can kind of see the edge of a little secret exit that Nathan found.
You mean that rock bit?
That little blue thing right there. Nathan's going to try to lead one of the enemies onto a trap. Boom.
Oh,
there we go.
Sweet.
Once
of course
you know
this
the
guy
traps,
respawned.
you can probably just get through this area by
There's a
being
guy
very
right
careful.
in my way. Oh my goodness. This is when procedural generation
Is awesome.
It's all for some reason the code always knows when to screw you over. And
Yeah, it gives you a little hint of where you want to go, and then it puts a whole bunch of bad guys in your way.
Oh boy.
Grab that. I think it's a mushroom.
Yeah, that's glowy. That must be good.
Oh, I didn't even want to eat that.
I think.
Yeah.
Did that hurt
there's
you?
a trap right there. Don't
Oh,
jump
God.
into it. There you go.
Yeah.
Good. Good job, man.
I love how entire conversation.
I know.
Yeah, we just
completely
stopped talking.
That was-
Let's see if Nathan can make it through this area.
I do. I actually think that's like
That was great.
that was one of the things
Well
that
done.
we spent a lot of time trying to craft are those moments where the game puts you in a different kind of like I am in fight or flight mode.
Yeah. There's only
And
Coming to you from here.
Yeah,
Sure.
like meaningful punishment, right? Like like an actual cost of that death.
Because I wanted to show what was in this area, or if I'm a player, I noticed that arc and I
Sure.
want to see like, holy crap, I've never seen that before. How do I see that?
And in the final game, you would, if you died, you would start back on the beach, essentially.
Basically, yes.
Right. Yeah. So the one of the main ideas that Nathan mentioned was that yeah, you are playing a new character arriving after the life of the other character.
Yeah.
It's kind of thematically, it is one of the main ideas that we're exploring. The idea that you are sort of always building on the progress of others.
And what are you carrying forth? Like, what do you? Obviously, you
like,
mentioned
there's-
the shortcuts earlier.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity for like if you achieve certain goals, those
Yeah.
goals stay achieved. If you unlock certain areas, those areas stay
Sure.
unlocked. If you pick up a weapon and travel 5 levels down and then die, you can go find your corpse, pick that
Okay.
weapon back up.
Cool.
The same thing with most items in general.
That's a bug.
Boom.
A bug is occurring
Oh my!
live.
Perfect.
Dang.
Not a bug, it's a feature. It's
Yeah, it's a feature.
crazy
I shouldn't have
dungeon.
even mentioned it.
Yeah, no one would have ever noticed had you not called
Yeah,
that out.
there's like
Yeah,
a trippy.
but I
you
couldn't-
ate
I
the
couldn't
mushroom,
not-
and that's what you see. when
Yeah,
you eat a
that's
mushroom.
actually it.
There you
That's-
go.
boom.
Explained.
Boom. Don't do drugs, kids.
Work in progress.
Yeah, this is actually the first time that anybody's ever seen this section.
Oh,
section
well,
is-
that's exciting
It's
then.
totally new.
Yep.
Um,
Because basically, like one of the things about the game is that people have seen caves,
Yeah.
but there is obviously, as you can see right now,
more of a
there
structure,
is
right?
more in this than just plain caves. There is a whole bunch of stuff in the
Whoa,
depths.
That is slick. What is that thing?
who knows?
That's actually the common response that we have to questions for below is, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I didn't. It wasn't even an honest, like an earnest question. It was like, I want to know. I just want to like start sticking it into things and see what it does.
Yep.
A key.
No,
that's my guess.
I think it's probably a key. Yeah.
It's definitely an important item.
Yeah. And you mentioned obviously we're looking at a very different setting here. Is it a mix between like this obviously looks man-made versus natural world, and that's sort of what it's bouncing between?
There's more than that as well.
Yeah.
But that's one of the main sort of branches
Yeah.
that you can explore.
Oh gosh.
Nobody talk to me.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
God.
will now be answering all questions.
Yes. So it seems they don't appreciate what you've done very much.
That's because you had no help.
Yeah,
We barely made it through that one area, and
That seems like an epic place to sort of wrap it, though. I would
Absolutely.
say.
Yeah.
We got something awesome. A bunch of laser eyes woke up, and we're really pissed off, and we died.
And blasted us
now
with
we're
And
dead.
now we're back by a lake, and we can just
Yeah.
chill out by a lake and like kick back, put up a tent, and have a good time.
yeah.
I think it actually I mean, we've both been playing the game
Yeah.
for a long time, and we're constantly getting surprised by the way that the levels generate and the enemies form, and how we end up in certain scenarios
Sure.
without having a real solution to that problem, and trying to think our way through. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. It's actually, it makes the game fun to
Yeah.
develop. And I'm a really firm believer that people that play video games can know when developers are enjoying making the game that they make and have played it a lot and still play it. And I don't know, I feel like people can tell and people can feel that from the work that developers do when they really enjoy it and really believe in it. And really
walking the floors of E3, it's the developers that are like pushing people away so they can keep playing their own game. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That means something's going right.
Yeah.
So you guys announced this game last year for Xbox One. Then since then, I think a couple of months ago, you also announced a PC release.
Yep.
Yep.
For starters, there's been this sort of trend or resurgence in the PC as a gaming platform for a lot of people. But do you feel like this type of game, would have a natural audience in PC gamers? Is there any kind of other thinking behind getting it on Steam besides just a larger audience?
There's definitely, the audience obviously, and then obviously the fact that PC gamers have definitely spoken that they are the type of audience that loves this type of game, that loves games that are replayable and challenging and deep and offer kind of a different look than a lot of console games maybe do bring. But then the other side of it is it does also offer us a lot of opportunities that console game, putting it on console makes it a little bit harder to do. And part of it, one of the reasons why I think Steam is so successful is because it allows developers to rapidly respond to player feedback, to kind of rapidly communicate with players, to see what's happening and immediately push their own brand new builds up, to make tweaks and almost try it out, because the PC audience is very familiar with that.
Right. More tolerant.
More tolerant, but also more interested in taking part in that, I think. And that's not a knock on console gaming at all. I think that they're also interested in that as well. But I think, in general, the PC players have been, really cool about whether it's modding or whether it's, giving feedback, whether it's, and that's even before early access. Early access has only kind of served to push that even further. So yeah, we're extremely excited to be bringing the game to Steam as well as Xbox One, and it's really great for us in development because it actually provides us we know who we're making the game for, and we can feel really confident in making it for that type of player.
What completion state is this in?
I don't know a valid answer. It's we've been working on it for a while. There are the guts of the game are in a fantastic spot. We feel really good about the combat. We feel really good about how the levels generate and how the levels feel, about the challenges and goals and traps, and all of those pieces work really well. But then there's an entire there's an entire component about it that is based around us providing new content, more depth to the game. There's a crafting system in the game where you can actually experiment with that, and also filling the world with more flora and fauna. I remember not so long ago, Chris was talking about the game as this kind of procedural terrarium. Where you're kind of looking in this little tiny world that is alive.
Procedural death terrarium.
Yeah, procedural terrarium of mysterious death and secrets and more death.
So you guys just shipped Super Time Force a couple weeks ago, really.
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
That's why we look tired right now. It's
Right, I was going to say,
it's not just E3.
What is the actual balance of this? You're not a huge studio,
no,
right?
we're 22 people. We like to split the studio into 2, maybe sometimes 3 games at once. And in this case, we were making 2 super challenging to make games at once, 2 games that were really design problem-based games that were very creatively heavy. And it was definitely a challenge for us, and definitely took a lot of power to kind of push through getting Time Force out while also moving this game forward. And we showed this game for the first time at PAX East in the end of March or beginning of April, and then launched Time Force the middle of May. And the good thing for us is that
it's been a busy year.
It's been a very busy year for us, but
I'm actually on vacation right now.
Chris is going to Hawaii tomorrow.
Oh, man.
He's peacing out, and I hate him for it.
Yeah.
But no, it gives us a chance to kind of really. There's not 2 more kind of different games than Super Time Force and below, and that's something that we take a lot of pride in, and something
You guys
that
sort of run the gamut.
Yeah, we do.
Releases.
And we have a lot of fun doing it. It's based on what kind of crap do we want to play, and can we make both of these games at the same time. And I think it says a lot to the caliber of people that work at the studio that we're able to make this all work together and it still feel like Cappy stuff, even though it's so different, and also so much about dying a lot.
Totally. Chris,
That's a recent development.
Chris, I'm going to request you do something horribly reckless so that we can end the interview with an epic death. That shouldn't be too hard, right?
There's a whole lot.
Well, I could just impale myself on us. Let's see what death possibilities are available for us here.
We got
I'm
some
looking
traps.
for a guillotine.
Oh, that looks
you know what?
very
I'm just
dangerous.
gonna dodge these guys.
Yeah,
and,
dodge the death so that you can run into the death.
There you go. Well
oh, you took a hit while you were dying, too.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks so much for coming by. We really appreciate it. The game looks... I just want to sit for hours and play it.
That's the best compliment you can give us, my friend.
You know, that's a good sign, and the fact that you guys still dig playing it is obviously a good sign as well. So thanks again for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks to you at home for watching. We'll be here all week at E3 checking out all the really, really cool games, including Below and many more. Keep it locked on Polygon.com.